Welcome to Mystara for another remastered video, this time looking at the kingdom of Ierendi, the tropical paradise nation. An archipelago consisting of 10 different islands, Ierendi is known for its booming tourist trade, its fearsome navy, and its friendly people. It's one of the few nations completely explored, though it is also located next to hundreds of small islands that have never been discovered. It is the last of the 64-page gazetteers, and unfortunately has the reputation of being one of the worst of the line, second only to the Etruscan. But with a little retcon help, many of the previous issues can be smoothed over. I'm Mr. Welch, and it's time to work on our 10. Ierendi is one of the few nations in the known world with no enemies. It's located 50 miles south of the Five Shires. It's comprised of one of the 3 island nations of the known world, the other ones being Minrathat and Osland. It is a nation comprised of 2 people, the native Mackay and the prisoners brought in by Thyatis decades ago to work the plantations. After Ierendi won its independence through the efforts of both groups working together, the 2 people formed the modern Ierendi. Despite their different backgrounds, the 2 people gradually fully accepted each other and worked for the betterment of their home. Ierendi was first settled by the Mackay almost 3,000 years ago, where they lived in relative peace except for clashes with the native lizardmen. During these years, the Ierendi developed their legendary nautical skills. 700 years later, they were conquered, like many of their neighbors, by the Nithian Empire. The Nithians ruled over both the Mackay and the lizardmen for centuries, until both the Nithians and the lizardmen suddenly vanished, leaving the Mackay in sole possession of their island chain. The islands were further populated decades later by exiled prisoners from the Five Shires, who became the first non-Mackay settlers since the Nithians. A year after those exiles arrived, the Thyacians invaded and conquered the islands. The native Mackay were no match for the swarm of Thyacian troops. Ierendi became an occupied prison colony where Thyatis dumped its prisoners it no longer wished to take care of. The occupation of Ierendi ended over a century later when the Mackay and the prisoners rose up as one and drove off the Thyacians, creating the modern nation of Ierendi. The islands were further reinforced later by the arrival of the Honor Island wizards, who offered magical protection in exchange for control over an unpopulated volcanic island. Thyatis attempted to retake the island several times, but the combination of Ierendi's ships and Honor Island magic kept the empire at bay. Decades later, the Honor Island wizards commissioned the construction of their fire ships, 9 indestructible ironclads who proved their worth by annihilating a Thyacian fleet attempting one last invasion of the island. Ierendi's government stands out as their monarchy is purely ceremonial. The king and queen are selected through a tournament and rule for a year before having to defend their titles in the Tournament of Adventurers again. Despite the titles, the king and queen are not married. In fact, both are allowed to move their families into the royal palace. The monarchs are mainly there for public relations and to welcome foreign dignitaries for formal visits. The actual power is held by the tribunal, a group of branches of government that handle the day-to-day operations. These tribunals are normally operated by powerful families, but if someone is unable or incapable of handling their duties, they're replaced by an appointee agreed upon by the monarchs and the other tribunals. The primary tribunals include agriculture, which supervises hunting and fishing to prevent the depletion of natural resources. It also helps farmers find workers to help with the harvest and provides financial support in case of disaster. The Department of Foreign Affairs handles all trade agreements and treaties with foreign powers, as well as appoints ambassadors as needed. Customs and Assessment is in charge of tax collection and works as a kind of coast guard to track down smugglers. The department is capable of handing out letters of marque, which are supposed to help curtail smugglers. Unfortunately, this leads several privateers to develop loose definitions of the term smuggler, causing some international problems. The Department of Internal Affairs handles all infrastructure issues, mainly fixing up roads and keeping buildings from falling into disrepair. And lastly, the Department of the Military handles the protection of Ierendi. It oversees not just the Navy and the small army the nation has, but also maintains the peace through the local constabulary called the Guard. Despite its reputation as being a tropical paradise, Ierendi has one of the most established criminal justice systems in the known world. Many of the Thyacian prisons are still intact, something the islanders take full advantage of. Criminals are brought before tribunals, where their case is heard and judgment is passed if necessary. There is an appeal system, but the odds of getting a verdict overturned are slim, and the court can increase a sentence if it thinks the prisoner is wasting its time. The Guard does have a reputation of asking for a lighter sentence if bribed, but some of the local Guard are completely honest and will charge a suspect with bribery if approached. There's 10 islands in Ierendi, each with their own customs. Ierendi Island is the largest of the islands and is the center of government. It contains the Palace of Ierendi, a coral castle that is used more to entertain guests and tourists than actual government business. The island also contains a number of schools, and all Ierendi children are required to attend public schooling. Since the population of the islands are small, the school is more than enough to handle all the children. This policy does result in Ierendi having the highest literacy rate in the known world. Nearly 100% of its citizens can read and write. The island also has the School of the Arts, the largest bardic college in the known world, where every type of art is taught. Bards and artists from numerous nations flock to Ierendi just to attend this school. Safari Island is the second largest island after Ierendi Island. It is home to numerous tourist attractions for the various nobles and merchants that come to see the beauty of the islands. It has an animal preserve that houses numerous rare species, and tours are arranged for visitors that want to see the various animals. Adventurers are hired to protect the tourists, and a number of druids oversee the animals to make sure they stay healthy. The druids aren't always happy with rare animals being turned into tourist attractions, but the money being brought in is used to help maintain the creatures, so the druids look over the transgressions. For the truly rich, there's Gastineau's World of Adventure, a park designed to recreate dungeons and other hazardous locations. The park has numerous charmed monsters, hired humanoids, and constructs available to serve as challenges to the various nobles paying to play the part of adventurers. The park also pays numerous shape changers to play a variety of roles when needed. Weapons are blunted and magic spells are restricted to illusions, but accidents have been known to happen. These are quietly swept under the rug by park management. Alcove Island is known for being the home of pirates, though that fact is always denied as rumor. In years past, the island was entirely controlled by pirate fleets, but as civilization began arriving on the island, the pirates were pushed further away from the natural bay that is the main attraction of the island. The fact that the island was known for pirates is exploited by local merchants, and many con men will sell bogus maps to hidden pirate gold. One particular entrepreneur takes advantage of the numerous shipwrecks by placing worthless costume jewelry or painted coins in the area and leading expeditions to them. It's well known that the treasures are worthless, but he does always leave a valuable gem behind to guarantee a steady demand for his tours. There are pirates on parts of the island, but thanks to the Royal Navy and the encroaching settlers, they're having a difficult time staying hidden. Utter Island is a mysterious land of ancient buildings, enigmatic natives, and strange customs. Populated largely by a group of albinos, this group has been part of an Ierendi culture for so long, nobody remembers where they originally came from. The albinos have a strange belief that through the construction of buildings, their souls will find peace in the afterlife. This belief, paired with the low number of albinos, means there are dozens of abandoned buildings that were created and left empty after their builder died. The albinos also build large structures for every possible need, including elaborate grain silos and barns for livestock. They are a private people, only marrying outside their culture to maintain genetic diversity. Despite their unique appearance, it is against the law to harass the albinos, something the Guard does strictly enforce. The albinos are rarely seen during the day, but have superior night vision that allows them to perform their duties at night. Settlers have claimed unoccupied albino buildings, but the albinos can demand those buildings back without notice, something that the Ierendi Guard will enforce. White Island is one of the two forbidden islands in Ierendi. The island is cursed with incurable madness befalling anyone who sets foot on the island after a few hours. The island is populated by around 100 insane monks who chant in an unknown language that even magic can't translate. There is also a large population of white apes and doves who also seem to be connected to the land by the magic. The Ierendi Navy has a permanent presence around the island to prevent ships from approaching. Anyone who shipwrecks on the island can attempt to swim out to the waiting naval vessels, as they will not approach the island due to the risk of madness under any circumstances. Royster Island is at the southern tip of the archipelago, populated almost entirely by Makai. It is known for being uncomfortably hot in the summer months and plagued by swarms of mosquitoes for most of the year. The island's population has actually created several spells designed specifically to deal with the flying pest. The mosquitoes, called Mau Mau in the Ierendi tongue, carry numerous tropical diseases and are a constant threat to the islanders. Makai who harvest rare plants from the swamps have to wear full protective body clothing to avoid the Mau Mau. The island is also known for the excellent fishing in the area, and charter boats are a profitable business for the local Makai. Aloysius Island is a source of conflict in Ierendi for a variety of reasons. First, it serves as the nation's prison. There aren't any actual walls, but prisoners stuck on an island with no hope of rescue don't have a lot to look forward to. Naval vessels patrol the coast, making prison breaks all but impossible. Another problem is the recent discovery of gold and silver on the island that have caused dwarves to flock to it. The sudden influx of dwarves has caused problems with the prisoners due to the miner camps springing up all over the island. The prisoners suffer from tropical diseases, while the dwarves are much more resistant. The local Makai are being pushed off Aloysius Island because of the increased migration, while the prisoners and miners are at odds over the decreasing space on the island. Elegy Island serves as the nation's cemetery, though it does have a fairly large population of farmers and sheep herders. The island is self-sufficient, but other than farming and sheep, it has no strategic value. The island lacks the natural beauty of the rest of the nation, meaning tourism is limited. The population is entirely Makai, who are happy with the fact their island is considered ugly by outsiders. The island is the traditional burial ground for the Mackay people, and their graveyard takes up most of the island. The graves consist of both traditional graves as well as cave burials. The entire island is considered hallowed ground, and there's never been a case of an undead uprising. The graveyard is watched over by a mysterious caretaker named Jamie Honeycreeper Ahua. It is not known whether he is a benevolent undead creature, a timeless shaman, or something more, but Ahua has guarded the cemetery for longer than anyone can remember. There's numerous legends about Ahua, that he guards sacred Mackay artifacts, that he was young when the nation was founded centuries ago, or that he only appears when graves are disturbed. What is known is he tends to the cemetery, but no one has ever spoken to him, or how even people know his name. But he is known by all the islanders regardless. Fletcher Island is known for its large bird population, as well as a thriving agricultural industry. The island produces numerous luxury items from the natural environment, including down mattresses, clear crystals that can start fires when exposed to sunlight, and a large selection of foods like olives and wines. Because the island was created by a long-dormant volcano, most of its population lives in caves created by the lava flows. Other people find the living arrangements unusual, but it's completely normal for the Fletcherites. Of special note is the creature known as Mr. Cork. He owns an estate where he stages elaborate recreations of tourist fantasies for a price. Okay, this is where Ierendi has aged very badly. Mr. Cork is obviously a reference to Fantasy Island. There's even a Magnum PI version represented by the investigator Magnus, complete with a red chariot and a butler named Iggins. If you want to use Mr. Cork, change him to an archfey to explain his powers. Just replace the name if you want to. The pop culture references are going to be lost on newer players, and older players are just going to roll their eyes. Honor Island is one of the most famous islands in all of Ierendi, home to the fire wizards. This is where the dreaded fire ships came from. This is also one of the biggest sources of visitors from the Plane of Fire. Honor Island is actually an independent nation that is allied with Ierendi. Honor Island provides military support. In exchange, Ierendi provides them with food and keeps unwanted visitors away. This is where part of the lore breaks down, because as written, Honor Island and Ierendi are distant friends at best. But for 300 years, these two nations have shared mutual defense, traded with each other, have no territorial disputes, and have even shared in the tourist trade. Two nations that close and having no external issues for that long are going to grow closer together rather than camping on centuries of mistrust. Honor Island does its best to study the element of fire, and even brings in tourists from the Plane of Fire. The fact that Ierendi has special tours for those same tourists tells me that these two nations coordinate on an almost casual basis. That's always bugged me as a continuity error. Ierendi stands out as one of the only nations that doesn't have internal threats. The government is competently run, and there's no threat to them abroad. There's nothing wrong with a peaceful nation with no conflicts. While it does limit your possible adventures in the islands, there's no room for a lost temple of ultimate darkness on an island where everybody knows everybody. It also lets you use it as a hub for other adventurers. The island provides for a lot of background options for characters. Bards will flock to the nation because of its bardic college. The Adventurers Club is a guild comprised of different classes that perform various charitable acts in exchange for always having a place to call home. There's tons of mysteries and intrigue in Ierendi. It's just hidden away in merchant stalls or at the bottom of the ocean. More people will visit Ierendi than you will find Ierendi natives abroad. The native islanders are split between the descendants of the prisoners and the native Mackay. Both groups have largely interbred with each other over the centuries, and they're considered one people now. The Ierendi language is spoken by everyone there regardless of ancestry. They're a welcoming people, but few migrate to Ierendi because of the limited space available, and because of the storms and the heat. There's a few Mackay natives that still believe in the old ways before the Thracians came, and they perform ancient ceremonies and dances from that period. These Mackay are viewed with some curiosity, though they take their customs very seriously. Ierendi is a nation that does need some updating. It's been criticized since its release that it relied too heavily on pop culture references that have aged badly. The nation itself has a lot of possibility, hidden pirates, sunken treasures, and of course tons of parties to crash. It just needs a little tweaking to update it. I am closing in on 5,000 subscribers. I'm not quite big time yet, but I'm definitely getting there. So please like and subscribe so I can finally get this setting the attention it deserves. Next up is the Elves of Alfheim, one of the most defining setting books in Mystara. But until then, isn't it nice to live on an island with no large cities?